Welcome to 100 Days In with me, Will Hall, the podcast where we deep dive into the first 100-day period of a company told by the founder themselves. Dun dun dun! This week, I speak with the founder of Neitiv, Keeran VetriKo. Neitiv are most well known for their coconut flower beer, the key ingredient being coconut flower drop. The nectar is extracted from the coconut inflorescence. The nectar is extracted from the coconut inflorescence. The nectar is extracted from the head of the coconut, to put it more simply. You may have seen them on Dragon's Den, but Neitiv have existed far before that. In this episode, we dissect the very first 100 days, including 5 things that Keeran has chosen personally that, in retrospect, were just vital to where Neitiv are today. He also talks about how to avoid feeling overwhelmed, which personally for me, I found just very helpful. Anyway, that's it from me. Let's get on with it. Roll the tapes. I'm going to be incredibly blunt and rude, Keeran, and I apologise to do so.
No. It's completely the opposite. The first 100 days are the days you're most motivated. I would say even the first year, you're very motivated. You're trying to get something out there. You're wanting to learn. The worst part are yet to come. They will come later. But after that, you keep pushing yourself. You will see better days. And that's what business is all about.
All right. Well, Keeran, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, William.
Something I think about a lot, and obviously this podcast is about the first 100 days, but even getting to day 0, where you have an idea about what you want to pursue, the venture you want to embark on, how do you even come up with the idea of Neitiv?
Yeah, I think many people have the ambition to start a business. Now, everybody I speak to say, no, I have to start something. But I think until you have something that you believe in and something you want to do, there's no point on just going for a business. And many people do that just to make money. I think that's perfectly fine. You can still do those businesses. And there are so many ideas online. You can look up, go to YouTube and see what business is doing well now, and you can just start. In our case, it was quite unique because coming from Asia and also liking the beverages, that we drink, mostly the alcoholic beverages we have in this country. I used to like wines, beer, all those drinks. But in tropical countries, there are some very unique beverages as well that we have never seen in the Western world. So when you travel overseas, when you go to a tropical country, you can see there's lots of different plants, beverages that we can actually enjoy and could be better for us than most of the beverages we get here. And then when we came across, when we were traveling, my wife and I, we went to Malaysia. That's where we are originally from. So we're there for a holiday, and we realized there's this drink that I've tried when I was young, but it's not really available now. So we traveled to a coconut farm, and we tried this drink. So this is actually a fermented drink from the coconut nectar. It was a delicious drink, and we thought, more people should enjoy this. The problem was countries like Malaysia are developing so fast, and urbanization takes over. Like KL has expanded so much since I was there, and all the farms, the coconut trees are gone. So if you are from a city, it's very hard to find this drink nowadays. And many people have heard about it, but they haven't tried it. So then came the idea, why shouldn't we do this? If we don't do it, who else is going to do it? And looking at the prospect of bringing this drink over to the UK and to the Western world, we believe there would be a market for this. People are moving into more unique drinks, more eco-friendliness, and this drink encompasses all of it. So we thought this is a perfect time, and also we had this probably more of a personal drive to bring this across as well. So in our case, there's a personal drive. There's this unique product that we enjoyed, but you can't get anymore or lesser nowadays, and it's not available in the Western world. So all of that combined, hence came Neitiv, our company, and coconut flower lager.
So when you traveled to Malaysia, were you looking to start a business at the time, or did you have no intention of doing so, but you just stumbled across this particular substance, I suppose, the sap from a
Yeah,
plant, from a tree? Is that how it
yeah,
works? I'm just trying to see the sequence.
that's an interesting question. So when I said, no, when I was working in the corporate world, I always had the idea of starting my own business. So there's always the idea that we have to do something in the back of our mind. But when I went to Malaysia, when we saw this drink and then it clicked, I want to do something, and there's something here that I could do. Let's combine those and start a business. That's what happened.
Did you know straight away, or did it come to you quite
Oh, no,
over a
no.
period of time?
Then all the challenges, that's where it starts. So you have
Yeah.
this idea of what you want to do, but you can't give up your day job for this because you don't know whether it'll work. So the initial thought was like, there's this drink from the tree that you can just bottle and sell. That was the thought that we got initially, but that was not the case. It took us 2 years of R&D. So we couldn't give up our jobs. So we're still working to fund the R&D. And
Mm,
we saved as much as we could to start a business, because some businesses you can start with a small model in a small amount, but when it comes to drinks or beverages, it requires a lot of funding. So in the initial period, unless you have a very rich parent or rich friends, you have to have the money to back you up for a few years. So that's what we did. We start saving, and then we also did a lot of R&D work for this before even we decide it is a feasible, viable product that can be made and sold.
mm.
So that's what took us a long time before even we registered a company. So we registered Neitiv in 2019. Our visit to Malaysia was in 2016. So you can think of the timeline it took before even we
Okay.
started business. Yeah.
Wow. I'm just trying to translate this across. So our listeners, a lot of them, I imagine, will be wanting to start a business in the future.
Yeah.
And something I also think about a lot is, how do you find the gap in the market? How do you find a good business idea? Because I think for a lot of people, the idea about just going into an industry where there's already 1,000 different brands doing the same thing isn't hugely appealing. I think a lot of people want to try and do something a bit different. And you may not have the answer to this, but I'm still going to pose you the question. What is the framework and like the methodology to try and find a gap in the market? Is it just exploring a lot like you did? Or is it leaning into a certain industry, reading a lot, trialing and failing? I'm just trying to work out how the best way of finding that gap is.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because there is always gap. We are always evolve when it comes to technology. People, the newer generation have different taste buds, and the things change all the time. So when you see something which worked in the past does not work anymore, you realize now there's a gap. So something else should happen now, because things have changed now. And when you start a business, or when you come into the entrepreneur mindset, you're always looking for ideas as well. You're always looking at things and saying, how can this be done differently? Or is there a gap there? And since I started the business, I've got so many other ideas as well, which I can't pursue because we are so much focused in this business. But there are always ideas when you watch films, when you watch documentaries, YouTube channels. There's always things that, yes, this can be done this way, or there's a way, something we could explore in this. And I think once you have the urge to start a business, you would start seeing gaps out there. In our case, or my personal case, I did, and I believe many people would as well. And if they don't have any idea, or if there's nothing out there for them, they can always start a business on things that are already out there as well, because nothing is perfect. You can always improve things that are already out there. So in case of beverages, you can always look at beer and make it a little
Mm,
different. Or you can say beer has been done in such a way, I want to make it different. Or, for example, I came up with this idea of charging, the charging points when it comes to EVs. I'm not going to say what the
mm,
idea is now, but it's just when I thought about, the the struggle people have, or some of the when it comes to charging, like there are fuel stations everywhere but not many charging points. That is a solution for that. So you start thinking about these different things all of a sudden. But that is also there's also a negative effect to that, I believe, because you're always wondering about other things you could do instead of focusing on your business. And when you have enough money, I would say, like when your business has grown enough and your responsibilities change, now you're in a higher management position, you don't have to do daily tasks, that would probably be the time to explore the other things that you identified earlier, or to look for something new once you're probably bored of what you do. And it does happen, because if you're in a corporate world, you can change job easily, but in a business you can't do that. You have to constantly focus on that. So probably that would be the time to look at other opportunities or other things you would want to do. Not now.
It's funny. Yeah, it's funny you mention other ideas and like them coming as a consequence of you starting a business. I had a conversation with a guy at work the other day. He used to work in the AI sector. And he was saying that a lot of the big companies, big tech companies out there, they were formed as they were formed because the original business, the people within the original business saw an issue that was almost a side thing to that core business. So one of the prime examples being Stripe, where apparently the people that founded Stripe, the payments company, they all worked at Airbnb, but processing a lot of the payments, especially cross-border at Airbnb, were a complete nightmare. So, so they thought, okay, well, here's an issue, and went off and started Stripe. And apparently OpenAI was then a derivative of Stripe, because they felt the inner workings of Stripe and the efficiency wasn't quite up to scratch. So it's funny when you start something, other ideas start to come. It's a bit like songwriting, I guess, where you start the creative process and your brain is just in that full time.
Exactly, and that's a very good point as well. Even when you start a business, it evolves as well. So your initial idea of doing something becomes something else. And our personal story is exactly the same. We started something of standardizing a very ancient wine. Now we are producing beer. So our idea was not beer in the first place. It changes. So I think you have to be open to changes. Evolve and get feedback from customers, and constantly change your brand and your product as well, and adapt to how things are moving, basically.
I'm just looking over the 5 things that you kindly provided that, in retrospect were just integral to the first 100 days of your company. But one stood out and I wanted to tackle it first. Strategic PR and marketing. To build visibility, we invested in PR efforts, engaging a dedicated agency, and initiating our presence on social media platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's no business without PR, because if you start something, you have to let people know you have started something. And I think in our case, once we have confirmed what our product is, how it's going to look, how it's going to be consumed, and who are going to be our target market, the next step is to reach out to the target market. And it's almost impossible to do by yourself if you don't have any PR or marketing background. There are many people who start business with marketing background. For them, it comes in a second to nature. In our case, if you are from a corporate background, you are not normally on the outside, like on the customer side. Now, I worked in oil and gas. I worked in electronics, engineering field mostly, and we did not have direct engagement with customers. There are departments which do that, and then they bring their feedback and we make changes to a product. So when we start a company, we wanted to reach out to people. And how do we go about doing that? There are easy ways to do it. Social media is always there, and things could go viral, and then you spread out very quickly. But don't keep your fingers crossed thinking that this is going to happen. Not everything is going to go viral and you're going to spread out very quickly. So you have to push out your information for a few, I would say constantly, not just for the first few 100 days, but just constantly you have to push out information of changes or whatever you're doing. But after some time, once you reached out to a certain number of people, it spreads automatically. But initially, just to get it out there, the best thing to do is to work with other PR agencies who have experience, background in it. So we have worked with a number of PR agencies, but in the first initial 100 days, we hired a company for us to be able to for them to guide us how to take the brand, how to market it, and what are the things that need to be done in order to reach the right customer. As well as we started our own social media. So we have social media background. So we started it ourselves. We also hired another company to manage our social media, but we took it back because we believed, we could do a better job of engaging directly with the customers. So you have to evaluate your work scope and see what you could do and what others could do. If there's something you can't do or you have a gap in, get others involved. So if you are a major company, you can hire people. But if you're small, like ours, like a small startup, it's best to work with other agencies.
Mm. And for those, I'm just playing devil's advocate now, for those that don't have initial cash, lots of cash at the beginning, and that may not have been the case for you. I'm just thinking in terms of agencies, they obviously do charge. Do you think social
Yes.
media on its own is enough to start off with? Or do you think actually
I
it's so vital to
yeah.
get some representation, some guidance from PR agencies at the beginning?
I would I would say it's depending on the business. In
Okay.
our case, it's a product that needs to reach people, and some platforms don't allow alcoholic product marketing or
Mm,
advertising. So in that case, we have to have a PR agency. But I think the PR agencies have the right contact network, media links where they can help you a lot. So first of all, when you have a product, you need a lot of people to write about it. So not just newspapers, there are lots of online magazines that we don't know that very much focused on beverages. There could be lots of awards, competitions that you can participate that can be recommended by the PR agencies. So I think even with the limited cash, you can work with some really good people out there. So it's not just big agencies I'm talking about. There are also some individuals, freelancers who have the background and the knowledge who could do some PR work for you. So I
mm,
think it's essential to get them, to get or work with them. But social media does wonders as well. So if you have the right type of product, sometimes it just goes out very quickly. But even the initial push, somebody needs to push it out there for it to reach and then spread. So the initial push was done by the PR agencies, I would say.
I'm going to be incredibly blunt and rude, Kieran, and I apologize to do so. How much, so on a budget, how much is it going
Yeah.
to cost me to hire a PR agency at the beginning?
Yeah, I would say you have to start with a minimum of 500. So they would have packages that you can pick
Yeah.
from, some of them. In that case, they would say, we'll reach out to this many clients, potential clients or medias, and that would cost you this much. And the value could go up based on the packages you pick. I would say if you hire a freelancer who works with multiple
Mm,
organization, around £500 might work. And then there's no limit on how much you can go from there. There are very big companies which could charge you millions as well. So if you don't have the cash, I think at least allocating some budget in the beginning for PR is essential. Just the same
okay.
way you spend money on product development, branding, design, packaging. You have to be able to allocate some amount for PR as well.
Mm. And is that 500 a month or one off? How long does that last for?
No, this would be a month. Yeah, retainers.
Yeah.
So you start with that and then you build up. So you see how, so we usually don't go up with big figures with our agencies. We usually start small, see how they work. And once we are comfortable with them, we see how they can do with such a small amount of cash, then we build up from there. So don't straight away go in and say, I've got £5,000. I'm going to give you, this for
Mm,
a month. And what can you do for us? If you have enough cash, yes, go ahead. But if you are limited when it comes to the amount, so go slow, go with smaller freelancers, try them. You can try multiple people. We've tried probably 5 or 6 agencies so far. One or two have been really good. So identify them and then continue working with them if you're happy. And you don't have to have them all the time as well. There are occasions where you need PR. In our case, we went to Dragon's Den, so that needed PR marketing a bit as well. So just getting a the presence in front to present in front of the dragons is not good enough. You still need to have a bit of a news that goes out to say these people have been there, radio interviews or magazines to write about you. So that the PR agencies helped on that occasion, but we don't hire them all the time. So as and when it's required, you just need the right people to work with.
Can you give some direct examples about when you hired? You mentioned there were one or two good PR agencies that you used, but can you give some direct examples about some of the things that they did that you wouldn't be able to
Yes.
do yourself, that you can clearly link to the growth within Neitiv?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, if it's a beverage, you want to get a PR agency who had some background or experience working in beverage industry. Again, in our case, it's alcohol, and not many people know alcohol. So when we started, it's just an example of something else, not PR, but more towards advertising and marketing. If you hire somebody who doesn't know alcohol, has never worked with alcohol, if they go to social media and start doing ads on social media, if they do it wrongly, you can be blocked by the social media because there are very strict rules on alcohol and how you should advertise it. So hire the right people who have some background, who have done work like this, or knows how the beverage or alcohol industry works, or whatever industry you're in, and then get them to link you up with the right people out there. So in our case, there were a lot of food and beverage magazines that they connect us to, which wrote a lot about our product. So they will send you probably weekly 10 links or contacts that you have to send your products, and they'll taste it and they'll write about it. So those are the occasions. So we don't know who the people were. My background is not in food and beverage, as I mentioned earlier. So we don't have those background and don't know who the people were. And the PR company was able to help on that. So they were able to link us to the right people. We sent samples, and they tried it and they wrote about it. And they will give you the right feedback as well. So which is really important for you because they have tried different beverages. They know what would work, what might not. So those feedbacks are quite important as well. So in our case, I think getting out to the magazines, the media, get the news out was important, and that could only be done by the PR agency.
And do you think social media has helped at all? And if
Absolutely.
so, how is
Yeah.
can you measure how much it's helped? So I'm just trying to think just out loud here. So you've got the PR, you've got social media, which obviously doesn't initially cost anything. How do you measure
Yeah.
the success of both?
Yeah, it's a good challenge in order to be able to do that. So the I think that social media is a constant thing. You have to post regularly. You have to manage 4 or 5 different handles in different platforms. Um, the PR work is occasional. So when you need them, you hire them, and you don't need, you let go. For as a small company, but if you have enough cash, you constantly can have them like throughout the year. In our case, we just use them as and when needed. But social media is a constant work. So you can actually see the difference when the PR agencies come in, and then if something happened during their presence because of them, you give them credit for that. And there are also cases where just because you had a good post, or our product is sometimes seasonal as well. When it comes to our beverage, is a very good gift item. So during the festivities, end of the year season, lots of products go out. So those are the times we push on social media ourselves rather than working with PR agencies. So I think everything has its purpose. And even within social media, you can focus on different types of platform, different time of the year, or for targeting different people. Like if you want to target Facebook, what kind of crowd you want to target, Instagram, TikTok, and all those have these places as well. And we learned that very late in our business. So probably after a year, we realized how to focus on each of these different platforms and how to make ads. So we do everything ourselves now. So we manage our own platforms rather than giving it away for other agencies to do. And social media is the best way to engage customers as well, because they write to you directly. You can respond to them, and also you would be able to get lots of feedback from them as well in terms of comments and response to your posts. So I think social media is integral for any business. This is something that didn't exist in the past, but now we have that luxury of being able to use it. At the same time, it also brings a lot of hard work you need to put into it as well in order to make it a success.
Are you on TikTok, Keeran, or is Neitiv on TikTok?
Neitiv is on TikTok, and yes, it's so you can't advertise alcohol on TikTok. So it's a very strict rule
I
on
see.
TikTok. So we
Yeah.
don't do paid advertising on TikTok, but we post on TikTok. It's just that I think we have to increase our engagement on TikTok. The problem with
Yeah.
TikTok, it's always videos, and you have to allocate a lot of time in order to prepare videos, and we can do that. It's just the time allocation is the issue. But as we grow, I think our TikTok channel will grow as well. And we are planning to launch our product in Malaysia this year. And TikTok is huge in Malaysia, so we have to be focusing on those platforms, Instagram Reels and TikTok, which means focusing on video.
Sorry, I'm not being rude whilst you were talking. I was just actually searching Neitiv up on TikTok as we were going along. So it's very good. I'm having a flick through right now. You even got more followers than me, Kieran. I've only just started on TikTok, so that's why I'm asking. But just
Yeah.
going back to the core, and this actually leads me on quite nicely to the next thing. So holistic brand development, creating a distinct identity. We focus on branding elements, including logo design, website development, in e-commerce setup to establish a robust online presence. So that sounds very poetic, but I'm going to ask you quite directly. Practically, what does that mean?
So it means you have to have a brand with your, a vision on what you want to do with the brand. And when you're building something, you can't just say, "Okay, I've got a product, I'm going to sell it." You have to see what does your product stand for, how you want to portray it to the customers, and once the customers drink it, how do you want to engage with them, and what's the purpose of the brand as well. So there's lots of things involved. So when you look at beer, there are many different types of beer out there. So you can just produce a beer, have slap on some cartoonish label on it, and sell to your local customers. So that is a way of doing it. Or you can have a beer like an industrial beer and say, I want to go all retail. I want to focus on no customer engagement, just sell through retail. Don't want to have any link with customers. In our case, we thought we want a product that has very strong links to community building. We want our product to be able to reach the right people. So not just people who want to drink alcohol, but want to drink it mindfully, as well as people who actually enjoy a very unique beverage as well. So it's not just any beer, but a beer that tastes different, a beer that it's premium. It comes through a lot of hard work, and our company stands for a lot of eco-friendliness, sustainability. So once we have those things as a value for a company, you come up with a brand and you say, what would be the logo for it? How do you want to portray it? What's your color? What's your branding? And how would customers perceive it? So that's the holistic approach to a brand. So it's not just a product, but a product that comes from this company which does this. So we are a coconut flower drops innovation company. That's how we identify ourselves. So it's not just alcoholic beverage. So we have a lot of other products to be launched in the pipeline for future. So initially we thought of coming up with a wine, but we went on to come up with the raw material, I would say the source material of the wine. And now we use the source material, which is coconut flower drops, in order to brew our beer. Now we have the beer. The next step is to create the wine, alcoholic free drinks, kombucha. We also want to make, so now we have launched the vinegar already. So as you can see, we are already not a beer brand. We have beer, we have vinegar, we're coming up with wine and a non-alcoholic wine as well. So lots of products in pipeline. So the customers you engage initially should buy your the vision, your idea, your values, and that customers will follow through with all your other products as well. So if we were just to focus on beer and say we want just the guys who drink beer, just focus on pints and pints of beer, we won't be able to bring all the other additional products all together. So our value and everything that people believe in, they also like what we do. So our vinegar is a big hit now. People are buying a lot of it. But these are the same people who bought our beer. So you can see it's the right customers we targeted. Now a next product is coming out. The same customers are buying that as well. And once we have other products, we will reach out to the same customers rather than going around looking for new group of customers.
Supply chain reinforcement, ensuring a steady raw material supply, particularly coconut
Yeah.
flower drops, was prioritized for the core of our business. So was that something that was really hard in the first 100 days? Did you even know what you were really doing? Because I think a lot of people, when they hear supply chain, you think of big factories, lorries, worldwide shipping, all this kind of stuff. Like,
Yeah.
people inevitably have to go through it if they're going to start a business within FMCG, certainly, and I'm sure other industries. Did you even have a clue what you were doing before you started from day zero? Yeah, and how did it
No.
play out?
Yeah.
I'm interested.
Yeah, it is a very good question there because as I said, I worked in the corporate world in multinational organizations, which means I traveled a lot as well. So I've been to many countries, and I've also because I was in the engineering sector, we do a lot of supply chain work as well. You know how to get things from one point to the other, but when it comes to food, it was completely different. And when you are importing something completely new into a country, again, that's a challenge. Like, how do you work with HMRC? What is the tax on this, and how do you have the code, the HS code for this product? And coconut flower drops it's not a product in the UK. Nobody knows about it. And even in when we start sourcing, suppliers who we could work with, I told you I tried it in Malaysia, but upon our R&D, we realized you can't just get the wine, which is the fermented version of it, and bottle it. It didn't work that way. It tasted so different in every country, every season. Different trees produce different types of wine. If you leave it for longer than you're supposed to, you get a completely different tasting sour wine. So we thought, if you want to standardize this, you have to stop the fermentation at the top. So you don't allow any yeast or any bacteria or any kind of insect to go in. So you have to have a very clean environment in order to tap it. And then once you tap it, you have to be able to process it at the farm itself. So in order to work with someone like that was a huge challenge. So we tried multiple countries. So we tried India, we tried Thailand, we tried Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines. The I think the best people we were able to work with were small farmers because they were a bit more open to working with new type of technologies or people, and some of them know about coconut flower drops as well. And when we went to a state in south of India called Kerala, they were cooperative we can work with. So we, instead of reaching out to a single farmer, you go to this cooperative and they have 50 or 60 farmers under them, and each of them have about 100, 200 trees. So it was much easier for us that way. But it took us a long time to identify them, lots of internet searches, and some of these people are not online. So the challenge was to, WhatsApp, call, find out somebody who does something, and then ask them to link you with somebody else. So identifying the source material was a challenge. And once you get it, how are you going to ship it all the way to the UK? If you don't process it, it's going to start fermenting by itself. So you have to do some sort of initial processing. What we did was we did a bit of a pasteurization at the ground. So high temperature pasteurization will kill all the minerals, the vitamins and all that. So we decide a low level fermentation, aseptic packaging, clean packaging, and then ship it to the UK. Once it arrives in the UK, how are we going to be taxed on this? Is there going to be a duty on it? Is there a tax on it? Depending on the HS code. So we had to write to HMRC, come up with a new HS code for this. So everything was a struggle. So every domain in a business, supply chain was a challenge. Coming up with the branding, how do you identify with it was a challenge. So every part of the business required a lot of time, effort in order to build. So exactly the same with supply chain as well.
That was very well summarized, and I get a very clear view. And you clearly had a lot of things to consider when you were going through that process, especially in the first 100 days. Even thinking, before you embarked on the mechanics of getting that supply chain in place, was it really obvious what you should be doing, or was it quite a mental challenge to even get to the start? Was it very difficult to even work out about the tax implications and how to find suppliers? Because, as I say, it's always, I'm trying to find the right phrase, it's always tempting when you listen to podcasts like this and there's a really good summary about how you did X, Y, and Z, maybe within a 1 or 2 minute period. But actually that was obviously spread over a long time. Was it quite manic, or was it quite messy? And did you have any advice on how to get that supply chain in place?
It is always messy. Things are never smooth, especially when you have a new product. Um, if you want something not messy, go for the tried and tested product, I would say. If you want to start something new, I would guarantee you it'll be messy, because you don't know what you don't know. And until somebody tells you this has to happen and you go, oh my gosh, I didn't know about this. How am I going to do this? So for example, when it comes to shipping the product here, we didn't realize we need a new HS code. So when we talked to the shipping company, they said, what's your HS code? I went, what can we use? Is there a standard one for vegetable juice or nectar or honey? Nope, we can't use that. So they all tax differently, different products. So okay, write to HMRC, and it took a while because they're not very fast at responding. But no, they're pretty good, I would say, when it comes to text and HS codes and stuff like that. So we got response very quickly, and then we were able to use that code. And then when it comes to shipping, things could go wrong. So I always anticipate things to go wrong so I won't get disappointed. So when we're working with some suppliers, they didn't package it properly. It punctured the packaging. Things wasn't get sent here. We lost a lot of money there. But ultimately, I think identifying the right people you can work with, different countries as well. During COVID, we couldn't get anything from India. The entire country went into shutdown. So we had to source other new suppliers. We went to Thailand. Now we are open working with India, Thailand, and new suppliers in Java, Indonesia as well. So we can open up and once we have an issue, you would fix it. By fixing it, you'll learn something new. And then from there, you move on to the others. So a country COVID was probably the biggest issue that happened during that time. So we overcame that, which means there shouldn't be any other bigger supply chain issues going forward, I think. And now we are planning to export to Malaysia. That took us about 6 months just to get the permit to export into Malaysia. So everything is a big deal. And especially if you're starting with alcohol, don't need to go into something so complicated, I would say, unless you have a background. Otherwise, the learning would never stop. And we're still learning. Every country you go into, the alcohol laws are different. Every platform you advertise, you market, people you talk to have different perception about alcohol, and some people like the taste of it. Some people like the feeling of it. Some people don't like it altogether. There's also a big community with low alcohol market as well. So yeah, everything is different, and you learn everything as and when you go. There's no way you can prepare for everything, and be ready to get disappointed. Be ready to be shocked, and be ready to learn constantly. Learning never stops in business.
That final bit 100% resonated with me. When I started this podcast, it was about 6 months ago. There's always that thing in your head where you think initially, oh, it will go really smoothly and everything will fall into place. But I don't think there's been a single day where something hasn't gone wrong. And when you said that thing about be ready to be shocked, be ready to be disappointed, that couldn't be truer. But I think the more you go through it, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this, the more you go through it, and every day you're essentially just on a full-blown problem-solving navigation. Every day there's issues, every day. But your tolerance to get to it gets better every day, and you almost just bake it in. And so when there's an issue in the future, or even I'm tempting fate massively now, so I hope this doesn't happen, but this thing could just disconnect. And the first time I did my first episode, it did. And you're thinking, oh my God, this is the end of the world. But you learn after a while, just stay calm and it'll be fine. There's always a solution. Do you find, and this is a long way of me saying this now, do you find that your tolerance to issues and problems and the way you set expectation is massively changed?
Absolutely. Very true. So initially, something that shocked you will surprise you. In the end, it's just another day. Firefighting is a regular thing, and you're always doing something new as well in the business. So it's not just doing the same thing. In our case, initially we worked with contract brewers, and then we set up our own brewery. then now we are setting up our own tap room. So there's new things happening all the time. So once you are used to the problems in your day-to-day job, you're bringing something new into it, and there's a new learning experience, and things could go wrong, so you learn from there. So but we believe that, in the first maybe 5 years, you try to learn as much as you can. So after that, there's more of a there's no smooth sailing, but more of a steady flow, I would say.
Mm.
And you can do more stuff in order to increase your business rather than just firefighting. So the firefighting happens when you are developing your business. Firefighting happens when you are trying something new. Once they all been smoothened out, okay, stabilized, there'll be lesser firefighting. There'll be more people in your team to take on these individual firefights without you, which means you would have the ability to focus on other things. So yeah, things can always go wrong, but be ready for it. And then you do learn from one, and then the things that shocked you in the beginning, just like you said, would not at a later stage. But there'll be new things to shock you then. But you learn, of course.
Mm. Mm. I think that's probably the thing, isn't it? I think when you're starting anything, don't expect it to be successful, but the whole point is just enjoying each day because it's something you really want to do. That's probably the main benefit, because not every business can be
Mm.
successful, not every podcast can be really big, etc. And if you're just doing it to
Yeah.
be big, I actually don't think I think it's pointless, basically, unless you're just so sure you can get there. The only thing you can really do is enjoy
Yeah.
each day and learn. Something that Something that I
Yeah.
found as well, and you can't really appreciate it until you do at least a few months. Certainly, I think 100 days is a good period, is that your baseline always resets all the time. And so what I mean by that is, if you, for example, you want to, in your example, trying to set up some sort of supply chain or trying to get social media in place, trying to get the PR in place, I'm sure before you did it, all you thought was, oh, it'd be amazing to get that done. Or that's really a big aim. But now it's almost your baseline where that's just running now. And you're thinking about other things and other ways to expand. I'm almost talking for you now. And these are just my experiences with the pod. But is that something that you also experience?
Yeah, I mean, setting up is still the same. So when you say setting up
Mm,
social media, yes, but running it is a different thing. There's always new
mm,
challenges, like what kind of post, you put on, and what would create more engagement. That's always changing as well. So you're always trying to be unique, trying to bring something out there. So the model is out there. Like when you put social media ads, when you run ads, so initially it's very
mm,
difficult because you have to have tags, you have to do this and that, you have to be able to link your online to your social media, so many things you have to do. But once that has been set up, now you are in the period of launching your ads on social media. But how do I make the ad unique or get more engagement? Now there's a
mm,
new step, and that never changes. You have to constantly evolve and make changes to ads. So the ad that worked a month ago would not work now, and then you have to come up with something new and look at what is happening around the world and then try to focus on that. So I would say that once the baseline is set, you get new challenges. But now, because you have a strong base, you can always go back and start again. So let's say if an ad fails, you can go back and try a different ad rather than learning the whole process again. So I think step by step, you come to a stage where the initial challenges will become norm, that you can go back and fix them very quickly or learn them again. But moving forward, again, that is always an obstacle you have to jump over.
mm. There's always the temptation, especially in these conversations, to go over the more attractive parts of starting a business, even things like the PR, the branding, the product. I'm sure that's a large part. It is a large part. But and I spoke to a founder the other day on this particular point. They told me that their biggest concern was around, and this is before they started their business, was around how they would file tax returns and how they would set up the company and how they would do the admin. And that was their biggest block. And they literally told me on the call the other day, it seems silly to be worrying about that. But it gives me a good segue onto this point that you told me. Corporate foundations, we swiftly undertook the establishment of Neitiv by registering the company, engaging an accountancy firm, and completing VAT registration. How did it go?
Oh, that is a challenge. Until you find the right accountant, you're always struggling, But once you have a right accountant, I think everything becomes smooth because some of them can do magic. So I think it's important to identify the right people for you to work with. Having the wrong accountant without the background experience can really bring down a business, because finances is probably one of the aspects of the business many people just ignore. I think once you have the money, you can spend it, you can make money, just market it and you can make money. That's what they assume. There's so many other issues that, in terms of administrative work or regulations that you have to fulfill. If you don't do the right VAT return, if you don't pay the right duty for your beer, if you don't do your annual returns, all those are big issues that actually bring down your company. Finances is probably the biggest issue. Even if you have money, it is still a big issue to run all these things. And I'm not even talking about fundraising, which is a completely different monster on the other side. Just this bit alone, you have to be able to have a smooth, strong foundation, the right accountant. Unless you are an accountant, you're so used to all this, that is fine. In our case, I'm not. Even with QuickBooks and Zero and company formations, how do you have a subsidiary and how's the main company going to work? What's going to do what? So all those struggles, there are people out there to give you ideas. A lot of startup advisors out there, or groups you can join, and they give you a lot of ideas, because these are standard for many of those companies. It's not completely new, like R&D. Probably you need your own focus, but these are basic requirements for every company, I would say. Finances and all the accountancy work and bookkeeping, doing it the right way, and they would be able to advise you on those things. There are a lot of good accountants out there, and until you identify the right one, keep searching, and once you have them, stick to them, don't let them go, and move on from there. Focus on other stuff, and they will take care of all those aspects.
Again, I'm going to press you on the amount now, because again, I know if I was listening to this and I had a set budget, I wanted to start a business, I'd be thinking, Keeran, brilliant. Like, that makes complete sense. Outsource the admin bit so you can free up the headspace and capacity to focus on the main core event, which is trying to grow your business. But how much does an accountant's cost? How much should I be budgeting aside for an accountant? And is it an ongoing cost? Is it once a year? How does that work?
Again, one Yeah, again, this one depends as well. So if you could do most of the bookkeeping work, if they're just doing the annual returns, so
Mm,
that would cost you very less, something between 300, 200. You can get people out there. You
okay.
can even hire freelancers to do that for you. That's easy. The bookkeeping part, the VAT return, again, there's softwares like Zero and QuickBook, which can do that for you as well. Again, another step, if it's quite straightforward. And then the challenge is collecting all the receipts and trying to put them all in, and having all the invoices for the VAT return. That is another challenge. Again, that's your discipline. You learn that over time. But if you want everything to be done for you, I would say something around 600, 700. You can get a very good accountant to do all this for you. Agencies who do that for you, which teams inside. And sometimes freelancers could do this as well. There are lots of consultants or accountants who do this, like individual businesses, if you work with them.
Mm,
But you have to learn a lot by yourself. Don't let everything to your accountant. You still have to raise invoices. You still have to pay invoices. You still have to do a lot of your banking yourself. You still have to collect all your receipts, and even if you're not doing the final VAT return, you still have to do a lot of work in terms of linking your payments to your receipts and your invoices. So there's a lot of work on that side. That's a completely admin work that doesn't bring you any money. So what we call as value added work, and then there's business
mm,
value, and then there's non-value added work. So I did low operational excellence in my corporate world. So in the engineering, I did Lean Six Sigma and operational excellence. So a value added work for a business is something that brings you revenue, something that you do, that you sell, the marketing, the sales that brings revenue. The non value added work is something that you do that customers don't care if you're actually doing it because it takes your time. It's a complete waste. And then there is this business value. The customers don't care if you do it or not, but if you don't do it, your business is going to be, going underground. So you have to take care of the
mm.
finances. So this is business value. So focus on that bit, and you have to have a very good foundation. Again, the right accountant, the right work. So in terms of cost, it could range from a few hundreds to even thousands. But if it depends on how much work you can do yourself and how much you learn by yourself as well.
We've covered a lot of ground, and I think I'm actually quite looking forward to listening to this back. I think there's some stuff that I probably haven't even taken in. There's always the temptation for when people listen to all this, there's so much information that it just feels a bit overwhelming. One of the key things that I learned from a previous guest, a guy that founded Well Easy, a guy called Sonny, is that just try and do one thing every day, just one thing at the beginning, and that will then lead you on to the following day. Don't just try and do everything at once because it feels overwhelming. And we've obviously, as I say, we've covered a lot of points, and I think it's just been unbelievably helpful. But would you agree with that? Like, for people wanting to start off but don't want to be overwhelmed, just put one thing in your diary tomorrow. Just can be quite simple. Just research. Or do you think it should be more compressed? What's your views?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the overwhelming aspect of business is trying to do a lot in a very short time, having too many um, milestones in your project plan and trying to reach them all in a very short time. Sometimes you have to do that. You can't just focus on one thing. But when you are starting your business, rather than getting yourself trapped into so many things and not being able to do anything, focus on individual things per day. I think those are really good advice. If you want to learn social media today, okay, I'm going to spend my day learning just Instagram because that is a whole black hole down there, how that can work. So I'm just going to spend my day on learning Instagram. Go on YouTube, spend hours researching, create account, post, trial it, create engagement, learn that. And then next day you want to go into Facebook, or you want to go into TikTok. So those are all separate things. You can learn one per day. And then if you are a very small team, if you're just a single person, I think that would be a bit of a challenge. These are the things probably you want to do even before you start your business. So if you have an idea, I want to start a business, what are the things that are necessary for any business? Social media, it is PR, finances. These are the things you want to learn one per day. Even languages, sometimes you want to say, okay, I want to focus my business in China. Let me start learning Mandarin now. Or I want to go into music production, but I only know guitar. And I want to learn piano maybe, or music composition. I want to learn that. So start now, even before you take the step of forming a company or whatever you want to do. And while you're researching and doing something, you might get some other idea as well. So these are all helpful tips that some people can do and can achieve something in the end. But I think the focus once you start a business would be multi-pronged. So you can't just do one thing at a time. You would have to do multiple things. What you could do is break your days into bits. Let's say once I wake up, I'm going to do all this work. Forget emails, forget responding to emails. Just focus on this work, spend 3 hours, finish it, move on to the next one. So rather than just one thing, you say, no, in the morning, I'm very fresh. I can probably do all the finance work today morning. So yeah, finance. Later in the evening, I can do social media. So you can break your days and say, focus on a couple of things, but different part of the day.
Let's go right back to the beginning, even before you came up with the idea. Is there, after 100 days, is there anything that you changed your mind on?
Wow. I think the first 100 days, we just thought having coconut flower drops as a product and we can sell that, make a wine out of it was the idea. What we changed to was creating multiple products from this. So initially, we weren't prepared for so many different products as a company. But now, once we have one product and two products now, we think we can just diversify in terms of the range of products we have, all from the same material. The other thing we are thinking about is also just focusing on beer itself. So we have two companies. Now, Neitiv is the main parent company, and we set up our brewery with a different name. There's a reason for that. So we create a subsidiary called Third Eye Brew Company. Now, Neitiv owns Third Eye Brew Company, but Third Eye Brew Company is more independent. So it's not just focused on coconut flower drops beverages or products. It is focusing on different types of beers as well. So we can create beers with different unique ingredients. Like if you are focusing, when we are exporting to Malaysia, we are thinking about, why don't we create a durian beer or a pandan beer or a ashwagandha beer or kukum beer? So these are all different ingredients which we can use in beer that are not normally used. So now we are thinking we can do so many other stuff with this, and we want to form the company in the right way, so we will be able to focus on different parts or different products with different companies. And also when it comes to the brewing, separating the brewing from the business was important for us, because we want to keep production as its own, so we would be able to contract brew or work for others as well. And at the same time, Neitiv as a company would do all the business in terms of marketing coconut flower beer and coconut flower products. So initially when we started, the idea was just Neitiv, and then came Third Eye Brew Company, and now we're going to branch out into different beers. And also with the coconut flower drops, you're going to branch out into different products from the coconut flower drops as well.
I said it was one of the last questions, but one that I was dying to ask and I just completely forgot during this episode. I think this is quite relevant, actually. What during the first 100 days, mentally, how hard is it? And was there a lot of rejection? I'm really just trying to get out. Is there points where you thought this may not work? Is there that element of loneliness, rejection, mental toll? Is that something that you felt at the beginning?
No. It's completely the opposite. The first 100 days are the days you're most motivated. I would say even the first
Love it.
year, you're very motivated. You're trying to get something out there. You're wanting to learn. There's so much, you want to learn. But as it goes on, if you are in the same level as we progress over years, then your motivation would die. Then you struggle. And then you have to do something to bring back the motivation. And most of the business owners, if you are individuals or even working with a partner, you have to be able to motivate yourself. So you will get lots of rejections. That becomes a norm after a while. And then you'll get lots of motivation as well. And you have to be able to enjoy those points. Like, for example, something happens on a particular day. Wow, this happened. Lots of rejections, yes, but there's one positive thing that happened today. Lots of disappointments, but something that happened. So you try to motivate yourself, and we constantly motivate ourselves as well, my wife and I. So this is something we focus on, how to make changes, how to bring things different. We're always doing something new. There's always a drive from where we were to something new. So if the business is stagnant, meaning your product is the same, you're trying to reach the same market, you do something else, you bring a new drive to the business, you try to motivate yourself to do that particular thing. But I think businesses are, even after the 100 days, they constantly evolve. And when they evolve, you change as well. And when you change, you're motivating yourself to learn something new, to make it, drive something new as well. So I don't think the first 100 days were the probably it were the best part of a business. The first 100 days, the worst part are yet to come. They will come later. But after that, you keep pushing yourself, you will see better days. And that's what business is all about, being able to stay and constantly doing what you could do and improve on what you do. It's a bit like exercising, isn't it? The first few days you think, wow, it's all, I can see gains, very quickly. It's all improving. I'm getting stronger. And after a year, you know what? I'm stuck to this 80-kilo bench press. I have to improve. Nothing is happening. And then you realize there's a different way of doing things. You've changed your diet, you improve, you change your exercises, and then you come back to your bench press, and now you're doing 100 kilos. So just like that, I think, bodybuilding is just one example I gave, but there's so many other things you do that it comes to a point where it becomes stagnant, and then you have to be able to motivate yourself, make changes, and then get people's experiences, talk with other entrepreneurs, talk with other business owners. I think that's why the community is really important. And we have a lot of that in the UK, which is an advantage. You can talk to many other business owners, a lot of startup groups. You can go to a lot of online forums you can be part of. And people motivate each other as well. So that is really good. And also your customers, I forgot to mention customers, and they are big motivators as well. If customers like it, they'll tell you they like it. They'll buy more of your product. They say this is something that has changed their life. And these are brilliant things that happen to you. So when we launched our vinegar, we trialed them. They say, oh, this tastes really different, not like any other vinegars. And then people compare it to apple cider vinegar because of the prebiotic and probiotic benefits to our vinegar. And then once they drink it, they realize this has really done me some really good. And they'll email you, they'll write comments in your Facebook and social medias. those are some really good points in your life that you have done something nice, good, and people appreciate it. And that's where it really satisfies you. You'll forget all the hard times, that positives are really there for you.
It's a really strong message, Kieran, and I completely agree, especially within food and drink. One of the benefits is the real-time feedback, because you have customers that are buying it all the time. You obviously have different iterations of your products, and you do have that relationship where you get the feedback, unlike other sectors, for example. But I know we're right at the end. We've covered so much ground. Is there anything I haven't mentioned that I should have done that you want to get out there?
Yeah. So we talked about the company and the formation. I know many people have this idea want to start a company, but I think every company has a social responsibility. So it's not just about making money. A lot of these big businesses just run their business to make money. They just whitewash here and bit and there to say, we do a bit of charity work here and there. But I think customers are a bit more vigilant now. They understand this, and many people focus on these small businesses because they realize they are a bit more engaged to your to the where you are, for a town or city. They are also engaged with lots of these social links. So I think companies have social responsibilities. You can do anything as a company, just take on some social responsibility. So in our case, beer has been for centuries now has been believed to be a male drink. It isn't. Women brewed beer in the beginning, and then during the Industrial Revolution, men took over. But beer has always been a female drink or producing drink. If you look at the beer goddesses, 5,000 years ago, 7,000 years ago, they were all females. Ninkasi, the Sumerian god, Menket, the Egyptian god, and you have Dialatis, who is the Celtic god. So they're all female gods, and beer was linked to them. So in our case, when we decided we're going to go with beer for coconut flower drops as a first product, we realized it's always a male image to beer. We want to change that. We want people, everyone to enjoy beer equally. And our beer, the way it looks and in the way you consume it, we get a lot of female engagement as well. So 60% of our customers are females who drink our beer, and it also doesn't taste like the other beer because of the bitterness and all that. So we thought the social aspect of it, we want to focus on something that is very crucial in this country. People don't know this, but period poverty and period stigma. When we talk about period poverty, period stigma, we talk about the menstrual stigma that women face during the menstrual period. That they hide it. More than the statistics are grim when you look at it. People like not very comfortable. Like it used to be last year, it was 8%. Now it's 24% feel they're not really, prepared for periods, and they hide it because they are being mocked and shamed by their colleagues, friends. So that's the case. And also period poverty as well. It has risen from 12% to 28% this year from last year. So that is a huge rise in period poverty of people who can't afford their menstrual pads and period products. So these are the issues we decide to tackle. So we, as our charity, we run something called the Red Dot Project. Now, Red Dot Project provides free period pads and fight period stigma as well. So we have our own social media channel for Red Dot Project. And me as a face of Red Dot Project, an Asian male, it is also quite important. I go on podcasts and I talk about this as well because it is a big taboo subject. I think we talk about sustainability, but if period doesn't happen, human race will stop to exist. That's how important it is. So sustainability is also about all the menstruation and how as humans we perceive it. So we do provide this charity, and I think every business look for something that you're really tied with, or something that you're really inspired by, and run this. It could be planting trees, it could be supporting animals, a wildlife, whichever it is. I think every business should have a social responsibility, and customers are also looking at that. So now when we do this Red Dot Project, our customers are happy about it, because you get more of your money from women, because 60% of our customers are women, and you're doing a charity for women as well. So this is something really important for every business to consider when they start.
Amazing way to end. Kieran, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me, William. Great talking to you.
Thanks all for watching. Next week, we stick with the alcohol theme, but with a twist. Dun dun dun. If you enjoyed this app, do share with whoever you think could benefit. I'd really appreciate it. See ya later.